Today is a long-awaited and a very fun podcast, I'm sure of it. Before we start, I wanted to say thank you very much to Dumbarton as a whole, but of course the main man, the owner, Mario, who joins me today. Mario, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
Nice meeting you. As you can see, I've met you in the past because you have your jersey already with you.
Of course, and as I said to you, it is very, very hot up here, so I would have worn it, but unfortunately, the weather conditions would have meant I'd be sweating the whole way through, and we do not want that. So speak to me then about your really interesting career path. Let's really wind back to you as a young boy. Growing up in, Canada, and you were interested in ice hockey and baseball, and you worked at McDonald's. So what an interesting time that would have been. The first job that you had there, McDonald's, the big one, what was that like for you? What did you learn when you were there?
Well, it's funny. I worked at McDonald's at 15, so officially I did a lot of odd jobs before, like picking up beans, picking up strawberries. Beans is the worst because you can't even eat them, and it's 12 cents a pound back then. You do a whole day and get $20. It was a terrible job. But the strawberries were better because you could eat them as you go along. But the real first job, when you go to an interview, that you fill up a form and put your social number and all this stuff, was McDonald's at 15. So at that McDonald's, reportedly, I was one of the first French people there because it's an English section and area. And so my first few weeks were a little bit tougher because my English wasn't great at the time, and some people didn't have the patience for it a little bit. And but I did meet a supervisor at the time. He was a group leader, and Jim Bass, a Greek guy, and he became the mayor of my town later on in life. He's actually the mayor right now, dealing with flooding and all sorts of things. But McDonald gives you discipline, process. There's ways of doing things, and you cannot be creative too much in McDonald's. You have to follow the rule, and then you have a crew trainer that tests you every now and then. Then there's the crew chief or whatever, a group leader and things like that. There was a lot of military feel to it, and I enjoyed it. It was the least paying job in my lifetime at $3.54 at 15. And 2 years after, when I was 17, I left and I was doing $4.54. And I remember that very well because a bunch of my friends were doing a lot more money than I was. But it was something that you loved belonging to. We'd go as a group into the drive park, how do you call that? The cineparks? When you go with your car and watch a movie?
Oh, an outdoor cinema.
Yeah, there you go, outdoor cinema. Together, and sometimes picnics, a beach, whatever, as a group. It was always, and obviously McDonald's was the guys that from 15 to, let's say, 30 years old. It was a lot of that group. So you had girls there and you got friends there and so on. So it was fun. I like the environment. It was very geared on efficiency, and it gave me discipline. I had discipline already from my grandpa before, but and my mother. But working there showed me the result of that discipline could attribute to great results after.
Could you speak to me then about your love for cars? I know that you restored a Ford Mustang.
Yeah. So love of cars come from my dad. I used to be just a 5-year-old, and I could name you all the cars on the traffic in the road, and even the year. And I still do that. I still am able to do this. If I go to a car show, I can do it within 1 or 2 years sometimes. And people will say, "Have you ever had one before?" No, this is times of my dad, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s is really my dad's time, right? But I know them all, and my dad was a Ford guy, and now I became a Ford guy, and I have a German friend who's a GM guy, and another friend that had Chryslers and stuff, so you tend to continue, and my dad liked to have Mustangs, and eventually when I was 18, I bought one, a 69 Mustang. I redid the whole thing, took it apart completely, nothing was left untaken. And then I continued that. At around 35 years old, I bought another one, a 68 convertible, then a 68 fastback later when I was in my early 50s or late 40s. And then lately, I just sold the last one that I did was a 69 convertible. It's a funny thing is that if you ask my friends, they're all going to tell you, yeah, he buys them, he just puts them apart, puts them together, and then the challenge is gone. He sells them. He doesn't drive them, you know. So typically, the one that I drove the most was a 68 convertible because I had my boys. They were all little at the time, so I used to take them to the ice cream place with the convertible, and it became like, okay, we go to a practice, football practice, or whatever practice, and then come back to the ice cream place and then go home, you know. And it was always with the convertible and stuff. But yeah, I like. If you ask me about the new cars for me, they have nothing for me. All the lines is the same. If you're looking at old cars, there's the character. They have character. They have a personality. They plus now because they're old. You go to car shows. We just had a car show in Dumbarton about a month ago, and at our grounds. And what you see in old cars is that now there's an heritage, there's a thing with them. You know that an old Jaguar is going to have vacuum problems, they're going to have terrible engines, but they're so beautiful, the E-Type, you know. And if you look at like in the American cars, if you go in the 50s, you had the pointy, the flash, the whole the brake lights and stuff. And so many times I do car shows and I take photograph. I never take the whole car. I take the tail light. I take the name. I take the you know that you know lion or cougar or on top on the ornaments. You know what made them the character, and I like that a lot. I you go in my garage right now. I have a front bumper of a 76 F-250 Ford truck. And why? Because it's like for me, it's like escaping reality sometimes. It's like a time machine. You know, you go in an old car, an old house, um, anything that has life. You go to the church, you have a bench that people have been sitting on for 100 years on that same bench, you know. So I like all that, and that's why if you ask me later on why I called myself Vintage Lapointe for the music, well, it was because I like vintage stuff. I like my old guitars. I have a 69, a 60, 71, a 76. I have old guitars. They're worthless. They're Ovation. They're all crack and stuff. But me too. I'm crack. I'm hurting in the morning and stuff, right? So it's the same thing. I think there's a lot of value to that. Is that the history comes and Dumbarton has the same thing. 154 years now, and you have that. Everything is old. You know, it has that momentum that you walk in and you're in the time machine. You look up, you have the castle that was been there since 1400. It's been destroyed a couple of times in the 1200 and in the 800, I think, or something like that. But what we see now, I think, is since 1400. The elephant logo, it's funny, but the elephant logo started in 1537, I think, or something like that. So I like all this whole stuff, you know. Ask me if do I do other things? Yeah, I went to see a museum for perfume, uh, and a museum for all the purses and things like that from the 1900s and up in Arkansas. There was a museum like that, and so I'm not a woman. I'm not particularly attracted to purses and stuff, but I like going through that. You know, I like to go see these old stuff that have value in history. You know, and that Dumbarton is one of them for sure. Yeah.
Well, you ended up getting a mechanical engineering degree, so I suppose you
Yeah.
wanted to take that on as some sort of career. Did you ever expect that you would I mean, have the successes of music and obviously owning a football club that you have now?
There's no success yet.
Well,
Let's call it like that.
well, for you, there's no success, but from the outside
So
looking in, there's a
the
lot of
only,
success.
as I said to a fellow lately, is the only merit to Mario is that he was crazy enough to join the adventure, right? But if you look at my dad's a mechanic. I always said I was going to do one step up on him, so I took mechanical engineering. I liked turbine engines and things like that, so I did a lot of optional courses to go into turbine engines and things like that. And I worked at Pratt and Whitney for a while, and then I worked at CAE Electronics, which is flight simulators and things like that. And this is where I got a little bit touched to the electronics, and I built an electronic company after, with, but I never studied electronics at school or university. University gives you a paper, gives you a diploma that permits you to use it as a stepping stone to other things, other ventures, other, to be an entrepreneur. I think all my life I was an entrepreneur for sure. Fixing baseball glove to get paid by others to fix them, doing different things, picking up bottles around taverns and around brasseries just to get money and things like that, because my folks weren't that rich, right? And so to get money to buy gum and things like that, I would always figure out a way to make money, right? So the entrepreneur has always been there. The mechanical engineering, it felt normal because I was taking cars apart already at an early age with my dad, and doing brakes and doing all sorts of things. So for me that was a normal path. And then the abnormal one was when in '96 is when I started the business in electronics, which was something that I had learned at CAE Electronics through courses. I went through courses at the Goddard Space Center. I did the GPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab courses. I did all sorts of things. I worked on the camera systems on the Canadian Arm, which is on the space shuttle back then. So I was lucky. But again, a lot of people say, oh, you're so lucky, but I make my luck. I take risk, and I make that luck. So when I took the risk of starting the business, I started the business no salary for 2 years, and I was the only guy in Canada, I'm sure, that was happy that his parents were divorced. Like this, I could go take a dinner at one hand, and at the next day I would take the dinner at the other parent, because there was no food at home. so and I don't know if you know this, but there's a frozen food that we have in America here that it's called the Michelenas. It's frozen. It's basically pasta frozen, linguinis and things like that. And when they would go into a special, they were 69 cents. And I'd go there and buy 50 of them in one shot, put them in the freezer. And that was my 2 meals a day, and that lasted about 2 years of our startup of the company. On the third year, we finally got a real contract, a good contract, and then it went on. So yeah.
I want to speak about your music career. Would you?
Yeah.
I mean, you said that Dumbarton, hasn't been a success yet, in your opinion. Was your music career a success? I mean, 20,000 monthly streams. But come on,
Yeah.
though. I mean, I couldn't do that. If I started having a sing song,
No.
context, by the way, my sisters and my dad are unbelievable singers. If they were to get 5,000 streams on Spotify a month, I'd be patting them around the back. So for you to get 20,000 streams, that's a success, surely.
It depends of the month.
Okay.
My highest was 25, I think. And if you remember the guy that did the Dumb and Dumber,
Yes.
okay, remember there's Jim Carrey and then there's the other guy. Can't remember his name, but the other guy is an amazing musician and a great writer, okay? And I looked him up at one point and he was at 30,000. And he's known, he's done movies, he's done all sorts of things, right? And I was at 25,000. I said, wow, not bad for an old man, So if you look, that was my peak around 25. Right now, I think I'm around 10, 11, 12 or something like that. And I have 7 new songs coming out. and they're coming out August 3rd, September 1st, and then every 4 weeks. There's a system to the algorithm of the Spotify, and you can't do big albums anymore. You have to do singles, and the singles have to be in Spotify at least 2 or 3 weeks before the release date, and they have to be touching each other every 4 weeks. Okay, so a new song every 4 weeks. And what I do also is I put it in all the community universities and things like that before the release. So right now, some people last week were listening in Waterloo and in Alberta. They were listening to my new song already, but that new song's not released. So there's a recipe to this madness, and a lot of people just think they throw it in and nothing's working. No, there's a whole thing about it, and you have to study it. It's like any industry. You have to learn, study it, figure it out. There's a way of doing it. Now, are you telling me I'm making money? No. Money with music these days, especially in the digital age, there's no money to be made. You have to do shows to make money, and I don't do shows. I don't have time, and I don't have that. I don't have that courage, that courage that it takes to face people all the time. It's very hard, it's very hard to do so. I did it. I did a show last September, and I'm doing another one in September 25th this year at the Dumbarton Rock. And I do it because I have control of everything. I have anxiety, and I'm a guy that needs a little bit of control. And what we did is that I have a cabaret style, so tables, no stadium thing, tables with little lanterns, and the serving of alcohol or beer or whatnot it is only between songs. Okay, so, and I only do I do the story and the song. So when I do the song, I explain to the crowd where it came from, why is it written like that, and so on. And I found a guy in Scotland, right next to my stadium actually, whose name is Richie Gallagher. Amazing storyteller and an amazing musician. So what we do is I do 3 songs, he does 3 songs, and we talk about each other's song a little bit. And the funny thing is, when he speaks to me, I have no problem. I can understand him perfectly. But when he sings, I have a hard time understanding, because he uses a lot of words from Scottish, right? And so I'm supposed last September, I'm supposed to talk about his song. Hey, I like it when you said this and that. And I go, I only heard the word butterfly there. The rest, I couldn't understand nothing. And then we all laugh, and so on. So back to my side of things is that last September, pretty much at that show, I hit 1 million stream. Okay. And this year, I think I'm going to hit 2 million probably by October, maybe, if the new songs hit well, But the thing is that you get 0.3 cents per song stream, 0.3. So 1 million stream gives you $3,000. It barely covers what it costs you to do it. I always get a guy for a trumpet, sometimes a lead guitar in the songs also. So it's really for fun. And I use it, and oddly enough, I use it for dating now, because when a girl wants to know me more, I say, just go listen to the song, because I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over. Like dating for me has become almost like a Groundhog Day, Oh, what happened to you? What happened to me? Oh. So I just say, here's the link, listen to the song. If you don't like it, don't go back. We'll go from there, and there's that's what it is, It's music. I started music back in 2021, I think. I had done nothing for a long time, just write stuff. When you go in university, you think you're going to be doing this, and you drop that, and I used to play guitar for my boys when they were little. I'd sing to them and play guitar before they go to bed and things like that. But it was just for family and stuff. And what happened in 2021, after the divorce or separation in 2019, well, the guitar became my medicine, my way of trying to not kill somebody and try to moderate my my passion into music instead, you know. And so many people have written to me about my music from Brazil, from France. There's a guy in France that in the middle of the night at one point he wrote to me saying how one of the songs was helping him through something, and the next day I wrote him a song, and I played it to the phone and sent it to him, and he liked it a lot. I This was last year. I actually am releasing that song. It's called In the Jar. So in the jar, and basically it's keeping your emotions in the jar, bottling up and keeping it inside, kind of thing. And he ends up being a tattoo artist in France. So I said, hey, do you want to do the cover art? He said, I'd love doing that. Yeah. So he did the cover art for the song, okay, and a song that was dedicated to him, right? So that's pretty cool. And my cover arts are usually black and white, and his cover art has color. So he goes, you can put it black and white if you want. I said, no, 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 no. This is from you, man. I'm not touching anything. We'll keep that one colored, you know? And I've had people from Brazil writing to me, from Italy, a lot from places that are going through things that are more conservative people, obviously, and so you know, in Brazil, if you look, when I went up to 25, Brazil was 8,000 people per month in Brazil, and at one point I was looking into maybe doing a show in Curitiba, I think it's called, in Brazil, because most of the people that were contacting me were from that area, all from that area, and it was pretty cool. You know, I've traveled 25 countries in my life. I've never been to Brazil. I've never been to a lot of places where my music is playing, and that's pretty cool. I did a French song about a year ago called Pour Toujours, which means always, kind of thing. And that French song didn't pick up nowhere except it picked up in Morocco. And that was pretty cool. Never been to Morocco, and my song was playing there, you know. And I think it's because the lady that on the cover art had springy hair, looked maybe a little bit, you know, from Morocco and stuff. And anyway, so that was it. You know, that's music. Music is for fun. It's passion. I think I have to keep it for fun so that it stays for fun, you know. If you start thinking seriously about it, you know. But I think, you know, I was mentioning today, they're doing the maintenance day at the stadium soon. And I told the guys, hey, this time, please, no more music of Vintage La Pointe. Because last year, it was my first few days, right? And they put my music blasting on the stadium the whole day. And I said, yeah, I don't think I don't think you want to do that. Because a lot of it is for sad moments. I always say I have music for every emotion. I have a song for every emotion, kind of thing. And that's what I like the most is when I get somebody writing to me. I had a guy that I went to Detroit to go see a soccer show, a soccer tryouts, I guess, the word. And the chef that was at the Marriott came into the lobby, and a big guy full of tattoos and stuff. And he goes, "Aren't you that guy that sings about the devil?" It's what? And my son was with me, the son that plays football. He goes, "I can't believe it. We're in Detroit, and the one guy knows who you are. How the hell does he know you are? Who you are?" You know, it's why the music travels, man. It's not my fault. It's and sure enough, that guy was in jail before, and that song was something that he stuck with. And I guess he got an image of me somewhere because I don't have my faces on covers usually too much, and that was it. He recognized me that same night. He came to the bar at Marriott, and there was empty bar really. So I played 6 songs for him at the bar just for him, direct. there was another guy sitting there, and that was it. So that was fun. That was fun. But I like doing these things. Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting because I mean, recently I've tried to open my mind up purposefully to try and understand, mental health and anxiety, like you said
Yeah.
that you have, which is, by the way, a horrible thing. And I've tried to, open my mind up to people and understand, especially with men, because men often, as you with your song, bottle things up,
Yeah.
and it's a really interesting one. And I'm trying to really open my mind up. And once you open your mind up, it really helps to understand why people do certain things. And perhaps, in my opinion, maybe this is why you have such an important and ambitious drive because of some of these things. Before you, took control of Dumbarton, you were looking at other countries to buy a football club in. So England, Scotland, Portugal, with some of the places that I saw online. Could you speak to me about the potential leagues that some of these clubs were in? Because I'm not expecting you to say who and what club they are, but are you looking at Championship, League One, or National League?
No, there's there. Look, I didn't have deep pockets to look that high. That's for sure.
Mm.
Okay, so if you look at England, you're looking at the National League and Step 2, Step 3. Okay, uh, when you look at Portugal and things like that, the lower you go, the less English they know. It's almost like that. So for me, I would have liked Portugal. I still like the all the area of Faro. That's such a beautiful place in the world. And I've been there 3 or 4 times for the Mundialito. If I don't know if you remember, there was a big tournament called Mundialito uh, for football, and in Spain and Portugal. And so I looked at what was for sale at the time, of course, right? And there was things. I think that when you look at clubs for sale, you have to investigate a little bit. Why are they for sale? A little bit. If a family has had that same club for 40 years or so, and they have young sons or sons in their adulthood or whatever, why is not passing it on? Why is not continuing? And I would tell you, in England, the matter that I saw, especially on the south side, was that the demographic was changing quite fast, and the owners that I spoke to uh, didn't feel a sense of belonging anymore to their own club. It seemed to be the reason why they were selling is not only the losses of 30 to 40,000 pounds every month, but it was more of they're not having fun anymore. It's becoming different. So I saw at least two like that. And then in the north side, um, the market was very small. I was looking for something that had assets also. So in other words, had a stadium and not a stadium owned by a trust or by the county or shared with other few people. Because I always thought I'm the old type that you buy things, you don't rent things. You have facilities to take care of, you maintain them, and later on they have a value to it. So that's why old cars, again, the same thing, right? So those made it a little bit special because you can't look at the example Cyprus and let's say I can't say the word properly, Gibraltar, you
Rotor.
know, yeah, that under Portugal there and Spain. Why? Because they don't really have assets. They have clubs, but no asset. They all play in the same stadium. Everybody plays in the same stadium. It's a setup that I'm sure works for others. It's just not for me because for me, I want to use the assets for music festivals and things like that, for comedy, for whatever we find. I mean, we had boxing last month, you know. So and I even tried to get some of the English people to come up to do arm wrestling competitions and things like that. And then they told us, there's not enough hotels in the area. It's okay. I gotta buy an hotel now or build one, whatever it is, right? But it's part of the things that I was looking for. So at the end, there's not many of them, and then you have to look at, okay, so what does the asset have? How is it being used? What's the potential of being used? And if you go through others, there was some that were being used fully and still lost a lot of money. So it made no sense. And then I looked at the Dumbarton, the way it was under liquidation. Basically, uh, that meant there was no debt. There was a price that was higher than the 10 cents per dollar on a regular, but there was no debt coming with it. There would be losses, and we lived that the whole year with losses, right? But there's assets and there's things to put on. And as you probably noticed, we're putting on a turf right now, and it seems that we're going to have a problem with our roof also. So I'm going to have to work out something with the roof also. But basically, there was no maintenance done for 25 years to this building, and now I'm collecting that reward. And I gotta fix up things and paint things and fix a lot of things. And the turf, because the asset was only being used every second week, well, the turf now is going to be 24/7. I got numbers yesterday that we say we're open for 15 hours per day, and on those 15 hours per day, there are some rooms now that we are using 30%. That wasn't the case before. It was more like 15 and 20. Now we're at 30, 35 on some of the rooms. One of the room is we had music shows that can stand 600 people, sit 240, but stand 600. We have another room that can sit 120 and stand 300. We have another room that stands about 80 and 640. So we have 4 rooms of different sizes, and then the big Dumbarton Festival on September, that's 3,000, possibly for outside our grounds, outside and inside. So potential is unbelievable. Now the site, anybody that looked at our aerial views, and by the way, the guy that does our aerial views, fixed by Pedro, he's a guy that lives right next to my stadium, and that guy did 40 million views this year. We did 35 million views without Instagram, without TikTok. This year we're doing that also. So we're gonna, I believe all three of us, the club, I don't count myself, let's say the club and Pedro together, they should reach 100 million views this year, okay? And then if you add me, which is complete nonsense, but I went viral on LinkedIn. I had one LinkedIn post that went 200,000 impression. My sons were laughing at me and said, you're the only ones that could do this. How did you figure? Well, there's a way of doing it. You have to post it on a Monday night or a Tuesday night, okay? You have to have a famous something that clicks right from the start. There's ways. If you keep throwing garbage in, you'll get garbage out. I think I did 3 posting on leadership at one point. I did posting on women football. The women football, people were writing to me from Brazil, from Italy, from all over the place. A special message just because I was trying to present a little bit of the model that we're going to be doing for the women's football and bringing them to the stadium. Now, by association, supposedly only 4 big clubs are putting their women's into the big stadium, Arsenal being one of them, okay? Well, I like that because now Dumbarton, who's completely not even in the same league, well, we're associated to Arsenal now and 2 other guys also, and that's fine with me, but if you compare, we were in League 2 this year, okay? We're, I think, going to reach 100 million views this year. If you can compare that to any club in championship, we're probably top 5 easily, okay? if you compare our attendance this year to any of the League Two and League One, the last 20 teams, basically out of the 42 in Scotland, we were top 5 in attendance also. So there's a lot of things that are coming in the recipe that comes to, did we have a potential? Yes. Do we still have the potential? We have huge potential. And this is why the Dumbarton Football Club was the right choice, you know.
How fun is it then to? I mean, let's speak on a footballing level. So the players, the manager, the backroom staff. Is it a fun job to be hiring and firing some of these people and bringing them on board?
No. No, the I'd say let's say everything outside football is amazing to deal with, and we have all the right people. And I think we there was 2 people that left, and there was 3 people that were let go. Okay, from the very first start, we saw that there was 3 people that were more negative people that I can't stand, and with time they left. There was 2 guys that left because they couldn't deal, I think, with the size of our club. They came from bigger clubs, and they had problems thinking that with smaller club comes with little resources, right? And that becomes, you have to deal with volunteers, and you have to deal with people that have a certain time lapse to do things. So everything is slow, and you have to have that patience and so on. Now, if you look at the football side is the part that is the most stressful part, the one that aged me by 10 years and 1 year, because we had a great start and a great end, but a terrible mid. So the football side, if you look per capita between England and Scotland, people that attend the Premiership, it's 19, I think, per thousand for Scotland, and 8 or 9 for England. So it's basically double the passion in Scotland. Scotland, the color of Scotland that you saw in Boston is not exactly the same color that you see in the stadium. In Boston, you saw people that were very optimistic, very happy all the time, very positive, very happy to be there. It had been 30 years they haven't been there, right? When you go to the clubs and you watch their football, a lot of people are still, I find they go easily on the side of the negativity, negative side. They go easily on, it's always been, and the funny thing is, I don't know if I linked this properly, but I linked that to a little bit of, there's no change of season. In Canada, we have change of seasons are real big. And we always say, okay, well, we finish this winter, spring's going to be amazing. Let's do this. And we have renovation projects, and we have this and that. And then, summer's coming, vacation and whatnot, right? So there's always something to look forward to. And I find that sometimes maybe the lack of season or real season, maybe that's why it's always like that. You try to do something different, you get 10 negatives, so it's a little harder to move. And that's why I put a lot of young guys in merch in our board of director. We've got 3 guys, I think, in their 30s. Of course, you have to balance with experience as well, but you have to have people that believe, that have hope, that they've seen other places, they've seen projects being arrive on time and things like that, so that you don't have that, it's always been it's tougher. You have to balance that with experience, but anyway, so the football side is tougher because you they're used to the model a little bit, the sugar daddy. A new owner comes in, like one of them came in late in League One last year after a liquidation. He put $800,000 of payroll, and boom, he's in championship. You know, so that sugar daddy model is not a model that should happen to Dumbarton, because that means they're going to go in liquidation again after Mario has run out of money, right? It makes no sense. So you always have to have it in a different way for smaller clubs, because when they were in championship in 2012, about they had about 100 people more in the audience. Makes no sense. It makes no sense. Somebody forgot to plant seeds. Somebody forgot to plant seeds for the youth, for the schools, for the youth programs. Somebody forgot to plant seeds everywhere. And why I say that too is when I arrived, the kids were banned. Because of some of them brought flares at one point. So overall, they were banned. And one of the sponsors told me at one point, on my first meeting with them, there was 5 sponsors, about 5 or 6 at the start, and we feel like this is a gentleman's club, private club. So basically, you could see that it wasn't for the community. It wasn't living through the grassroots of having youth and so on. So we changed that. We changed that with the Pass It Along campaign, with the Gen 7 campaign. We changed that. I mean, half my games, when I'm there, I spend the whole first half with the kids. I don't sit in the director's box. I sit with the kids. So for them to understand that they have to respect the crest and follow the lead of the adults next to them, but still make noise and be rowdy still, that's okay. And I want them to actually get a separate stand. As soon as I get the right sponsor, I'll have a separate stand that will have the 8 to 12 years old in there, and the 7 comes with their parents because they're Gen 7. They get their season tickets automatically when you turn 7, and with a parent as well, so they can sit with the big stand. And then eventually you go to the little stand from 8 to 12, and then when you go to high school, you go to the bigger stand again. Okay, so we had to separate because the high schoolers are making the young ones do stupid stuff, and they're scared of not doing it because they're going to get beat up or punched out or whatever. So all this is new to me, because in hockey we had segregation also a long time ago, in the 50s and 60s. You had the French divided by the English in the arena, in the major Canadian arena, but that was it. There was no such thing as forcing younger ones to do bad stuff. There was no such thing like that. But anyway, different places. It's for me to learn at the same time. So football is tougher. It's what people tend to know Dumbarton for, but we want to make sure that Dumbarton is known also for the events, the location, the all the things that we're doing, and there's quite a lot more coming also. It's just that it's the year after, and even there's one for 2028 actually, that if they get all the permits and all this stuff. So there's a lot of things being done, but you have to have, you can't address something without doing it, because if you do that, then you fall into the people that started something and didn't finish it, right? So everything that we announce, we finish it, every one of them. So anyway, so that's football.
Well, it's interesting, right? And I don't often get to speak to owners of football clubs, but I know that nothing lasts forever. The 2 questions in one here. How long are you expecting to stay at Dumbarton? And realistically, I know you probably want to get to the Scottish Premiership. So what's the timeline for that?
Well, look, first the first budget was to get up to par in 3 years, so 3 seasons. By the 3rd season, we should be up to par. Okay. What does that mean? Because in football, you never make money. Because when you make money, you throw it onto your players, right? So it's always a non-profit, basically. It doesn't make money ever unless you start selling players. We're not there. We don't have the youth that can start doing that. And even if you did start sell players and made money, you don't want to report making money. What you're going to do is you're going to pay your players better, and then you go up the ladders of championship and premiership and things like that. So for me, my short term is 3 years. That's my commitment of putting it back on its feet. And people at the club know this, is that I don't have the money to stay on 10, 15 years while losing money. But if we can go back to par, no problem. I can continue. Okay. The other thing is that other partners, Scottish partners, are going to come in at one point, and they're going to also take the relay. They're going to continue the job that's being done. And I've talked to a couple of them already. They're not at their part. They're not at the crossroad, and I'm not at the crossroad. But we're talking already and things like that. Why? Because I always said that it's really odd that a Frenchman from across the ocean had to come and kind of make sure that it doesn't get liquidated. Okay. But now the real job should be taken by a Scottish person or a Scottish group at one point. Okay. So when is that point? It could be 3, 5, 6, 10. Who knows? Okay. We'll figure that out. But this year is very determining, because with the turf, we should cut our losses by half now with the turf. Okay. So our losses, the people don't like for me to say the amounts at the club. They don't like me to say the amounts, but it was a large amount for a guy like me. It's a large amount, and we cut it by half, with the turf being rented. Okay, and then next year we're gonna be putting other things on the grounds. We're also have to make sure that we have more changing rooms and things like that. Bigger sponsors, hopefully. This year, on the football side, to answer your question, is that we have a very competitive team this year compared to last year. Last year, we were stuck in a situation that the team had to be done in the last few weeks before the season. So not to put anybody down, but the talent, a lot of the top talents were gone, and the budget was much smaller also. This year, we've increased a little bit the budget, and we were ahead of time in the schedule, and you can see it with the signers that we've done. Not that the Scottish players, but every fan has been pretty happy with what we've signed up to now, and then we're going to get into the loans, and we have a good network, so we should get pretty good loans also, and we'll go from there. Where we're going to stand, we're going to see. It's hard to say. People will tell you, where we want to be in playoff next year. Okay, let's see who's on the team first. I can't tell you where we're going to be without knowing who's going to be on the complete roster. I think right now we've got 12 signed, 12 or 13 signed, and no keepers signed up to now, like big names. We have some that we're testing out and things like that, but sign. So a keeper is key, is key in any sport, right? So let's see where we're going at. I think everybody that we wanted back, we signed back, and that was fine from the earlier group. And yeah, so we'll see. Are we a team that should be supporting to go to Premiership? I don't think so. Okay, if I'm true to myself, that region can't support that. Okay, it would be a mistake. Okay, now if the region picks up, and what I mean the region is that Dumbarton, let's say, is about 20,000 people. The region is about 60,000 people. Okay, if you have a hardcore of 600 to 700, that means you have about 3% of your region. Okay, you gotta have more than 3%. You can't live like that. So imagine you have the ambitions of a sugar daddy model that you throw in, and you bring the club to premiership, you will be killed off in the first season. They'll squish you right away because you can't cope with that kind of revenue, that kind of payroll, without having people in the stadium, without having blue chip sponsors. There's no blue chip sponsors because 25 years ago, 22 years ago, most of the industry closed in Dumbarton and they left. Now people take the train to go to Glasgow to work. So all the people, the head offices or most bigger companies, the ones that do have kind of that blue chip money, is in Glasgow. And where do they go? They go there. You know, so it's you have to make sure the environment's fine for a premiership. I don't think Dumbarton has that environment right now, but we don't have the talent or the budget to get there anyway. So let's take step by step. Let's do, it's like one of those domino trails there. You don't go in the middle section and you start hitting them. You start at the start and you want to see every chip falling at the right place.
My last question for you, Mario, is obviously you're the current owner of Dumbarton and you've got a lot of things going on. Is Dumbarton the only football club that you're ever going to be an owner of?
That there's people knocking on my doors not because of the money. It's because they've seen what I've done up to now in 1 year, and I think that's good. That's nice. It's what do you call that? It's like velour, Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you for that. Because I know there's another person that said, "Hey, I've got the money. You could take over and be the front man of that." But my job is not done. It's far from being done. So my job is this. The only thing that pisses me off a little bit was that I have a son that plays of that level, if not more, much more, I think. Okay, and he's playing in Ireland. So that pisses me off because I would rather him play with us than play in Ireland, and not because of Ireland. It's just that Ireland he was able to get a visa to play football, and in Scotland it's very hard to get that if you don't have your national caps, and he doesn't have any. So that's what it is. So one day maybe you'll hear Mario has walked away from Dumbarton 5 6 years, and is he looking at another? Who knows? Who knows? Because by that time maybe he'll be not even there anymore. He'll be somewhere else. It's the football players. They're travelers. they go well everywhere, right? So let's see what happens. But it's dangerous to look too far anyway. You always have to look maybe like me. My job is to be like in the 6 to 2 years, 6 months to 2 years in front. And Cameron's job, the guy that takes care of the club, really as a volunteer runs the whole club. He has to look at the present. And Jordan, who looks at the facilities and things like that, maintenance and things like that, well, he has to look at the 3 to 6 months or in front. So we all have our scopes and things like that. And my scope is to make sure that by the end of the second year, we are halfway mark. We cannot keep losses like we just did this year. That's for sure.
Well, Mario, I really thank you for joining me on the podcast. Thank you very much for everything that you've done with me, including the lovely hockey jersey behind me. And all the best for the future.
All right. Well, anytime you want more, you let me know. And there's all sorts of things that we're doing. The manga for the kids that's going to come out. I'm hoping before Christmas. I've spoken to guys for Roblox. I've spoken to guys for books. Spoken to guys for all sorts of things. So there's many adventures that we're going to do. And I do talk sometimes to other clubs. Like I did talk to a little bit to the hashtag guys and stuff. I did talk to a few other guys in Spain and things like that. I do not my look is I don't want to look like a rebel. I want to look like a maverick, the guy that will try something new and go for it. But the rebel is not what I want, because if you become a rebel, the SFA and things like that will always look at you as you know. But me, I want to try new things, and if it's successful, great. Let's hope that the other people in the league continue, because the Scottish League right now, when I looked at it last time, the last top 50, they're not showing up in the top 50 leagues, and that's really where we have to work on. We have to work on the whole league, to bring the whole leagues, not one club, one club. No, the whole league has to go up. And like this, it gives viability and life to all the clubs, you know, and security. Yeah. So anyway,